Prince Harry has spent years trying to control the story around himself, his wife, his trauma, his family, and his public image. But one of the most damaging things about reputation is that once it begins to slip, other people start telling the story for you. That is exactly what seemed to happen at Wimbledon, when Sacha Baron Cohen revived his Ali G character and in front of an audience that included Prince William, Catherine, Princess of Wales, Prince George, and Princess Charlotte, made a joke that dragged Harry's old Eton reputation straight back into the spotlight. The joke was simple, but the timing was brutal. Ali G claimed that Prince Harry owed him money because he had been Harry's dealer at Eton. In isolation, it was a typical Sacha Baron Cohen line. Outrageous, comic, and designed to make everyone wince before they laughed. But the context turned it into something bigger. Just days earlier, Charlotte Griffiths of the Mail on Sunday had publicly discussed an old encounter with Harry, alleging that during a party many years ago, he placed a white pill on her tongue and framed it as a kind of trust test.
To be honest, his brother, Prince Harry, he owes me 1,400 quid because I was his dealer at Eton.
Okay, this is absolutely hilarious. Sacha Baron Cohen, the legendary comedian, has just returned his character, Ali G. And it's his most famous one, right? But I love Sacha Baron Cohen.
Harry has also written and spoken about drug use in his own memoir and interviews. So when Ali G made the Eton joke at Wimbledon, it landed inside a much larger conversation about Harry's past, his judgment, and the stories now resurfacing because of his own legal battles. That is the key point. These stories did not simply appear from nowhere. Critics argue that Harry helped bring them back into public view by dragging people from his past into the courtroom and challenging their credibility. Charlotte Griffiths had reportedly kept quiet about her interactions with Harry for around 15 years. According to the commentary around this story, she did not rush to sell the details when they first happened, even though doing so could have advanced her newspaper career. But once Harry's legal action and witness issues placed her name and reputation under scrutiny, she responded. In that sense, Harry may have opened a door he now wishes had stayed shut. The result is deeply uncomfortable for him. Harry wanted the court and the public to focus on his claims against the press. Instead, parts of the public conversation have shifted toward his own conduct, his memory, his relationship with women, his use of his memoir, and the contrast between the innocent, cheeky prince image the palace once helped maintain and the messier stories now being revisited.
Most intriguing and got everyone talking is that Sacha Baron Cohen went viral for making a very obvious play on the increased attention around Prince Harry's historic drug taking. You'll remember that in the days before this Wimbledon appearance, Charlotte Griffiths, the high-profile Mail on Sunday diary editor and editor-at-large, had revealed that during that meeting with Prince Harry that
When Charlotte Griffiths produced old Facebook messages connected to Harry, critics saw it as a moment of poetic justice. The prince who complained about intrusion found himself confronted by evidence from a private past he had helped make relevant again. This is why the Ali G joke mattered. Comedy often exposes reputational shifts faster than formal commentary. Once a public figure becomes safe to mock on a major stage, especially in front of his own family, something has changed. Harry was not there, but he was in the room through the joke. William and Catherine were there physically, representing stability, future, and institutional continuity. Harry was present only as a punchline. That split screen captured the wider royal story better than any official statement could have done. Wimbledon itself intensified the contrast. Catherine received a standing ovation on the Saturday, a powerful public moment after a difficult period of health challenges and limited appearances. Then, on the Sunday, William and Catherine appeared with Prince George and Princess Charlotte, giving the public a clear image of the monarchy's future. The Wales family looked composed, united, and loved. The children brought freshness and continuity. The crowd response was warm, the imagery was strong, because it did not need explanation. It simply showed a royal family functioning as royal families are meant to function, visible, steady, and generational. At the same time, Harry's public image was moving in the opposite direction. His appearances around the Invictus Games and other events drew much less excitement. Instead of being seen as the popular younger prince, he appeared to some commentators as restless, diminished, and isolated. Meghan and the children were not visible. There were questions about security, palace accommodation, legal defeat, and whether the Sussex household remained stuck in a defensive crouch. Where William and Catherine looked like the future, Harry looked like a man still wrestling with the past. That is what one commentator meant by describing him as a broken prince. The phrase is harsh, but it captures the emotional shape of the argument. Harry once had charm, purpose, and enormous goodwill. He was the soldier prince, the funny brother, the son of Diana who seemed to carry both vulnerability and warmth.
Where I come from is that Harry deserves this. Because if he hadn't had dragged Charlotte Griffiths, you know, what did he call her? Charlotte G-string, whatever it was. If he hadn't have dragged her into court, tried to destroy her reputation, destroy her career, she was here, Tash, just last week saying, I was never going to talk about this. I was never going to reveal the Facebook messages. She had kept silent, Tash. For 15 years, she had kept silent. So you cannot actually blame Charlotte Griffiths here.
But after years of interviews, legal fights, accusations, and public grievances, many viewers no longer see warmth first. They see anger. They see bitterness. They see a man still trying to explain why he is wounded, while the rest of the royal family has moved forward. The mention of William during Harry's Birmingham visit added another layer. At Birmingham Children's Hospital, Harry spoke with a young patient about football. When the boy said he supported Aston Villa, Harry replied that his brother supports Aston Villa as well on its own. That is a harmless family reference. But because the brothers are estranged, even small references become meaningful. William appears to have decided not to discuss Harry publicly and, according to reporting often cited by royal commentators, does not want Harry to dominate his private conversations either. Harry, however, still seems unable to keep William completely out of his orbit. That is why the moment was interpreted as revealing. Harry may have left the working monarchy, moved to California, built a new life with Meghan, and tried to define himself as independent. But the older structure remains inside him. William is the heir, William is the Prince of Wales, William has the wife, the children, the future role, the public respect, and the institutional path. Harry has freedom, but freedom has not given him the same rooted identity. So even in a casual hospital conversation, the old comparison reappears. The tragedy for Harry is that he appears to want connection with the royal identity, while also rejecting the discipline that made that identity work. He wants to be seen as royal, but not constrained by royal rules. He wants to be a private citizen, but still uses titles. He wants distance from the family, but still circles back to William and Charles. He wants privacy, but his story depends on public emotion. He wants healing, but his brand remains tied to grievance. The public can feel that contradiction, even when it is not spelled out. Amanda Platel's apparent change of tone made the moment even more interesting. For a long time, she had been known as a critic of William and Catherine, and her columns often frustrated supporters of the Waleses. But after the Wimbledon weekend, she posted that she felt sad for Harry and wondered why William had not suffered the same way from unresolved grief over Diana.
Oh, they're delicious.
What's interesting, Tash, is that this Wimbledon weekend, which I think I describe it as a split screen moment, right? Because you had Catherine on the Saturday receiving the standing ovation and all of that. Then the children come on the Sunday with Prince William, and it's like, whoa, that is the blockbuster moment. Here's the future of the British royal family, absolutely adored, act incredibly. The split screen, of course, is we've seen only a weird Prince Harry acting like a total freak. And
why, she asked, had William not become bitter, angry and childlike in rage against the world? Her answer was simple: because he has Kate. That argument is deeply personal, and not everyone will agree with it, but it resonated because it placed the two marriages side by side. William lost his mother too. William walked behind the coffin too. William grew up under press scrutiny too. But William's life has moved towards structure, duty, and family stability. Harry's life has moved toward conflict, litigation, relocation, and public emotional turmoil. Platel's question therefore became unavoidable. If both brothers suffered the same foundational loss, why do they now look so different? Some commentators argue the answer is Meghan. And according to that view, Meghan did not create Harry's wounds, but she amplified them. She understood that Harry was emotionally vulnerable, deeply tied to Diana's memory, and resentful of his role as the spare. She presented herself as the woman who understood him, protected him, and stood against the same forces he believed had destroyed his mother. In this interpretation, Harry did not simply find a wife. He found someone who validated his pain so completely that moving beyond it became harder. That is not the only possible read. Harry is an adult, and blaming Meghan for everything could become a way of excusing him. His anger, entitlement, impulsiveness, and resentment existed before Meghan. His past mistakes were not invented by her. His comments in Spare about women, school staff, army colleagues, drug use, and family disputes were his choices. But Meghan may have given his grievances a new framework and a new mission. She may have helped him turn private pain into public campaign. And once that happened, the Sussex story became almost impossible to stabilize. The comparison with Catherine is powerful, because Catherine represents something Harry does not appear to have found in the same way: steadiness. Whatever criticisms have been directed at her over the years, Catherine has generally operated with discipline, silence, and long-term loyalty to the institution. She does not constantly explain herself. She does not turn every hurt into content. She has grown into her role slowly, and that steadiness has become one of William's greatest strengths. In the split screen of Wimbledon, it was impossible not to see the contrast between a marriage that appears to anchor the air and a marriage that critics believe has intensified the spare's chaos.
It's a harsh fact to face, but is Harry's inability to overcome his childhood trauma over Diana's death rooted in his marriage to Meghan? Is Harry's inability to overcome Diana pain rooted in Meghan marriage? And you replied directly to her, Tash, telling Amanda Platel, Meghan played games with Harry from the moment she met him. She saw a weak, easily manipulated man who wanted his mum. She turned her...
Dr. Max Pemberton's observation added a psychological dimension. He asked why a man who presents himself as kind remains so full of vengeance. That question cuts through much of Harry's public language. Harry often speaks about compassion, mental health, healing, and empathy. Yet his public behavior frequently appears combative, suing newspapers, attacking family members, criticizing institutions, reliving old wounds, and presenting himself as the injured party. In nearly every conflict, the gap between the language of kindness and the pattern of vengeance is becoming harder to ignore. This is not to deny Harry's pain. Losing a mother at such a young age in such a public and violent way would mark anyone. The problem is that trauma does not automatically make every later action noble. Pain can explain why someone struggles, but it does not excuse every act of cruelty, recklessness, or self-importance. At some point, the public begins to ask whether Harry is healing from his trauma or using it as permanent authority.
Has really just waved the white flag here.
Yeah, I mean, she really backed the wrong horse. But I think because people just started getting pissed off with reading her continuous attacks, the same as Liz Jones. There was no rhyme or reason for the attacks, and then her articles were not getting the hits that they needed to get. I don't think she's suddenly really turned around and gone, oh, hey, actually, Catherine and Prince William.
The criticism of Harry's behaviour toward women is part of that reassessment. In Spare, he wrote about women from his past in ways many readers found degrading or unnecessary. He discussed the woman with whom he lost his virginity, wrote about Caroline Flack, described a matron at his school in a way critics considered cruel, and revealed details that affected people who had not chosen to become part of his global memoir. Even when some of those people were no longer alive, their families had to read what Harry chose to publish. That is why the old image of Harry as harmless and fun no longer works for many observers. The memoir pulled private people into his story, and some are now pushing back. This is where the palace's old protection becomes visible in hindsight. For years, royal aides helped maintain the public version of Harry as lovable, cheeky, wounded, but fundamentally decent. That image was useful to the monarchy and useful to Harry. After leaving the royal family, he seemed to believe that the public loved him personally and would follow him anywhere. But the royal machinery had been doing more work than he may have realized. Without it, more of the real Harry appears, and not everyone likes what they see. That brings us to the podcast clip in which Harry was asked to describe his occupation. His answer was revealing because it sounded uncertain, scattered, and dependent on old identities. He called himself a full-time dad, a British Army veteran, Prince of England, and Duke. Then, in the context of the Invictus Games, he was prompted toward founder or inventor, eventually settling on founder while still joking around the language. The clip might have been intended as casual banter, but critics saw it as a map of Harry's identity crisis. Full-time dad is a private role, but Harry is still a global public figure. British Army veteran is real and meaningful, but his military service is now years behind him. Duke is a title tied to the institution he left. Prince of England is not technically how the British royal system is usually described, and critics immediately saw it as awkward, especially because William is the Prince of Wales. Founder of Invictus is the strongest professional identity he has, but even that is contested by those who point out that the games were developed by teams of advisors, palace staff, military figures, and professionals inspired by the warrior games in the United States. The fact that Harry did not mention Archewell stood out. Archewell was supposed to be the engine of the Sussexes' post-royal life.
The psychiatrist, Dr. Max Pemberton, who is quite a respected man, Tash, and he had written, the one question I think Prince Harry should ask himself is why a man who portrays himself to be so kind is still so full of vengeance. And I mean, look, Tash, it's something we have said a lot, but it's still interesting to hear that from...
It was meant to combine philanthropy, media, impact, storytelling, and service. Yet it now often feels absent from their public identity. Critics ask what happened to the donations, the projects, the grand mission, and the promise that Archewell would define their new era. Harry also did not foreground Better Up, where he has held the role of Chief Impact Officer, or Travelist, his sustainable travel initiative. The podcast answer made it seem as if many of the grand post-Megxit platforms have faded into the background, leaving Harry back where he started. Title, Army, Invictus, Fatherhood. That is a problem, because post-royal life was supposed to be expansive. Harry and Meghan were going to become global humanitarians, producers, thought leaders, campaigners, philanthropists, and culture-shaping figures. Instead, the list of clear achievements feels much thinner. Spotify ended. Netflix has produced mixed results. Archewell does not appear to dominate the public conversation. American Riviera Orchard struggled to become a fully realized brand identity. Better Up and Travelist rarely carry Harry's image in the way they once might have done. Invictus remains, But even that now faces questions about costs, sponsors, and whether Harry and Meghan overshadow the veterans. The Prince of England phrase also drew criticism because it seemed to reveal Harry's hunger for royal stature. Britain has a king of the United Kingdom, not a king of England alone, and Harry knows the difference. Yet the phrase sounded like a claim to something emotionally symbolic. William has Wales. Harry, in the eyes of critics, appeared to reach for England. That may be reading too much into a loose podcast comment, but the fact that people interpreted it this way shows how closely Harry's language is now scrutinized. He has lost the luxury of casual mistakes. The Invictus founder language raised similar issues. Harry is central to Invictus, but he did not build it alone. Figures such as Sir Keith Mills, Dominic Reed, advisors, military professionals, and teams with experience in major sporting events all played roles in shaping the games. Critics argue that Harry's tendency to present himself as inventor or sole creator diminishes the work of others. That matters because it connects to a wider complaint. Harry often takes the emotional credit for causes, while the practical labor is done by people around him. Invictus remains his strongest platform, but even there the headlines are complicated. Instead of clean stories about veterans, recovery, and sport, recent coverage has become entangled with Meghan's absence, security issues, sponsor concerns, petitions, and whether Harry is still an asset to the Games. During the trip, he was supposed to uplift Scotty's little soldiers, promote Invictus, and help generate support. Instead, much of the public discussion became about whether Meghan and the children were coming, whether Harry would stay at Buckingham Palace, whether security was sufficient, and whether the visit proved his security complaints were exaggerated. That is the curse of the Sussex brand now. Even good causes get pulled into the personal drama. Harry may arrive intending to highlight veterans or bereaved military children, but the media ecosystem around him turns the focus back to family conflict, titles, money, protection, and Meghan. The same happens to Meghan. She may try to present a lifestyle project or podcast appearance, but the conversation becomes about performance, authenticity, royal status, and whether she is being fawned over. The Godfrey clip about Meghan's Jamie Kern-Lima interview illustrates that public fatigue. The comedian mocked the interview as artificial, cartoonish, and uncomfortable, and the clip reportedly circulated because it captured what many critics had felt. Meghan's conversation with Jamie Kern-Lima was designed to be warm, intimate, and supportive. But to skeptics, it came across as staged, overly emotional, and self-congratulatory. The more Meghan tries to project authenticity, the more critics accuse her of performance. That accusation also appeared around Meghan's podcast conversation with Emma Grade. Commentators argued that Meghan seemed less comfortable when she was not simply praised and gently prompted, but asked sharper or more grounded questions. Whether that is fair or not, it reinforces the idea that Meghan prefers controlled environments where admiration is built into the format. She thrives, critics say, when the interviewer is emotionally deferential. She becomes less smooth when the conversation is less rehearsed. Harry's podcast appearance created a parallel problem. Critics found parts of it undignified and said it diminished him as a royal figure. But perhaps the most telling detail was that it did not generate the level of outrage or attention it might once have caused. A few years ago, Harry saying awkward things on a podcast would have been front page news.
This one, occupation.
Full-time dad, British Army veteran, Prince of England, Duke. But for today, I don't know. What do you want, Duke?
We go with the Duke, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, for today as well, because of where we are.
Okay, yeah, sure.
The inventor. Would you call yourself the inventor or
the inventor
of
the Invictus Games?
Yes.
Inventor, founder.
Founder.
That's
probably the better word.
All right. Okay.
Yeah,
great.
fair enough. Yeah.
Duke/inventor. Yeah.
Now, many people barely react. That may be the most dangerous sign of all. Scandal can be damaging, but boredom is worse. A public figure can survive being controversial if people still care. It is much harder to survive becoming predictable. Harry and Meghan are now facing that danger. Their critics know the script. Harry will mention trauma, safety, family, the press, or service. Meghan will speak about authenticity, kindness, ambition, motherhood, or being misunderstood. Friendly outlets will frame them sympathetically. Opponents will accuse them of hypocrisy. The palace will stay quiet. William will not engage. The cycle repeats. At first, the repetition drove enormous attention. Now, it risks creating exhaustion. This is why Amanda Platel's shift matters beyond one columnist. It suggests that even writers who once found value in criticizing William and Catherine may now see the public mood moving elsewhere. The Waleses are not perfect, and they will still face scrutiny, but their brand is stable because it is built on continuity. Harry and Meghan's brand is unstable because it is built on reaction. When reaction stops surprising people, the value drops. The fan base problem is part of this. Harry and Meghan still have loyal supporters, but that group appears smaller than the wider audience that has become skeptical, bored, or actively hostile. For a long time, negative attention still helped them because outrage generated clicks. People watched because they wanted to see what the Sussexes would do next. But if the public reaches the point where even bad news about them feels repetitive, the commercial danger grows. Media interest fades. Brand value fades. Event organizers become cautious. Sponsors wonder whether the attention is worth the trouble. This is especially dangerous for Harry because his value outside royal life depends on attention remaining high enough to justify the cost of association. A prince in exile can be interesting for a while. A prince with secrets can be valuable for a while. A prince at war with the palace can sell books, interviews, documentaries, and speaking events for a while. But eventually, audiences ask whether there is a second act. If the answer is only more resentment, more palace grievance, more criticism of the press, and more awkward attempts to repackage royal status, the story starts to shrink.
Traitor to crown and country, and no attempts at humour are going to change that. He is a lying, race-baiting, arrogant, and entitled hypocrite who is still demanding that taxpayers of this country pay for him. Harry calling himself Prince of England isn't just cringe, it's pathetic, because we all know why. Prince William is now the Prince of Wales, so Harry is trying to claim England. That didn't work out so well last time Harold went up against William for a claim to England, 1066. You also pointed out, Tash, after this.
Harry's problem is not that people never talk about him. His problem is that the talk increasingly circles the same subjects and produces the same conclusions. The Wimbledon setting made that decline feel sharper because it is one of the stages where royal presence still carries old-fashioned glamour. Catherine in the royal box is not just a celebrity sighting, it is part of a national ritual. William attending with the children is not just family branding. It is a glimpse of succession, continuity, and public belonging. Harry once belonged easily to that kind of scene. He could have been teased, cheered, photographed, and folded into the national moment. Instead, he was absent from the family picture and present only through a joke about his past. That is a steep symbolic fall. There is also a cultural difference at work. British public life often forgives scandal when a figure shows humility, humour, and service. It is less forgiving when someone appears self-important, litigious, and unable to take a joke. Ali G's joke struck a nerve because Harry has made himself intensely serious. He asks to be understood through pain, security, trauma, institutional failure, and moral mission. But public affection often needs lightness. The old Harry had that lightness. The new Harry seems to have traded it for a constant demand to be vindicated. Once the public stops laughing with you and starts laughing at you, the emotional contract changes. That is why the Charlotte Griffith story fits the moment so neatly. It is not only about one allegation from a party long ago, it is about the return of consequences. Harry put other people's conduct under scrutiny and then found his own conduct scrutinized in response. He questioned others' memory and credibility. And then old messages and old stories came back into view. He turned privacy into litigation, and the litigation made private history public. That is the pattern critics now see everywhere. Harry launches a battle to prove he was wronged, but the battle reveals how much damage he can do to himself. For Meghan, the lesson is parallel. The Jamie Kern-Lima interview was designed to humanize her, but because so many viewers already suspect performance, the emotional staging became the story. The more carefully an image is managed, the more satisfying it becomes for comedians to puncture it. That is why comic ridicule can be more damaging than political criticism. A political critic can be dismissed as partisan. A comedian simply shows the audience what it already senses and gives it permission to laugh. When both Harry and Meghan become reliable comedy material, the brand enters a new stage of vulnerability. That is why the contrast with William and Catherine is so damaging. The Waleses do not need constant explanation. They can attend Wimbledon, appear at polo, bring the children, and allow the images to work. Catherine's standing ovation said more than a press release. George and Charlotte in the royal box said more than an interview. William's silence about Harry said more than a rebuttal. The monarchy's strength often lies in that kind of visual continuity. Harry and Meghan, by contrast, seem to require endless narrative management. The irony is that Harry once had one of the strongest natural images in the royal family. He was spontaneous, informal, and emotionally approachable. But after years of managed confession and public grievance, spontaneity looks less natural. When he jokes, critics see strain. When he smiles, they wonder if it is performance. When he talks about service, they look for self-interest. When he mentions William, they hear envy. That is what happens when goodwill drains away. The same behavior is interpreted differently. None of this means Harry cannot recover some public respect, but it would require a dramatic change in tone. He would need to stop chasing validation through old wounds. He would need to stop using lawsuits as emotional battlegrounds. He would need to stop letting every public appearance become an extension of Sussex grievance. He would need to rebuild from the few areas where he still has credibility: veterans, bereaved military families, and quiet charitable work. Even there, he would need to let the cause lead instead of centering himself. Meghan would need an equally difficult shift. She would need to accept that public suspicion is now built into her brand. The answer is not more staged intimacy, more carefully chosen sympathetic interviews, or more soft-focused storytelling. The answer would be consistency, restraint, and visible work that does not require constant explanation. If she wants people to believe she is authentic, she may need to stop telling them she is authentic and simply behave in ways that feel less curated. The children add another complication.
Destroying it. Now, Tash, you're a big fan of this comedian called Godfrey, who I only came across this week because Terry O posted, "This is hands down the funniest, most savage take on Jamie Kern-Lima's infamous Meghan Markle interview I've ever seen. Absolute gold." Tash, it was so good. Can we watch it, please? Can we watch it?
I don't know if you guys have seen this video. It's been around for a minute. But every time it pops up, it makes my itch. This is probably the most uncomfortable, phony Cartoon Network.
Archie and Lilibet are private and should be protected, but their absence from public life also means the Sussex family cannot show the kind of generational continuity William and Catherine can show. Harry and Meghan chose a path of privacy for them, and that choice may be reasonable, but it limits the public story. Without the children visible, the Sussex image remains mostly two adults in conflict with institutions, still explaining the past. The Wales image, by contrast, naturally points forward. That is why Wimbledon felt like a turning point in miniature. It had everything: the Wales family glowing in public, Catherine receiving affection, William calmly present, the children carrying the future, Sacha Baron Cohen reviving Ali G, Harry turned into a joke about Eton and drugs, and the wider media connecting it all to Charlotte Griffiths and the court case fallout. It was not planned as a royal referendum, but it became one. The public could see side by side which branch of the family looks stable and which looks trapped in scandal. Harry's deeper problem is that he cannot easily escape the past because he keeps monetizing, litigating, and narrating it. His childhood, Diana, Eton, the army, old girlfriends, old journalists, old grievances, William, the press, and the palace keep returning because he keeps making them part of the present. Then, when others respond or comedians mock him, he appears wounded all over again. It is a loop. Breaking that loop would require silence, which may be the one thing the Sussexes struggle with most. Silence would mean allowing stories to pass without response. It would mean not briefing friendly outlets. It would mean not turning private hurt into content. It would mean accepting that some people will laugh, criticize, misread, or dislike them, and that not every slight needs correction. The royal family survives through that discipline. Harry and Meghan have spent years proving how hard they find it. The Ali G moment is therefore more than a joke. It is a signal that Harry's carefully defended narrative has slipped out of his hands. He can say he is a veteran, a father, a duke, a founder, or a prince. He can say he wants healing and accountability. But the public now has a competing image. Harry as a man haunted by old stories, mocked in the shadow of his brother's public success, and still trying to claim a place in a royal world that has moved on. For Meghan, the parallel image is equally difficult. A duchess whose podcast appearances are mocked as artificial, whose brand depends on authenticity but is often received as performance, and whose absence from major Harry events creates as much commentary as her presence would.
I mean, it sort of was one of those iconic pop culture moments for all the wrong reasons, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It was, too many memes came out of that, I think. And I think that it's one of the ones that will haunt me for a very long time. But yeah, everything with Meghan is fake, though. Everything she does is fake, you know. And I think the most real podcast I saw was with Emma Grede. And that, you can tell Meghan's mask slipped in it because she was actually put on the spot and asked.
She and Harry are now both trapped in a public perception problem. The more they try to define themselves, the more forced the definitions can sound. The next stage of the Sussex story may not be decided by one lawsuit, one podcast, one Wimbledon joke, or one Invictus appearance. It will be decided by whether they can stop reinforcing the criticisms already attached to them. If Harry continues to appear bitter, restless, and obsessed with the past, the Broken Prince label will stick. If Meghan continues to appear curated, self-involved, and dependent on controlled adoration, the accusations of fakery will stick. If their causes continue to be overshadowed by their personal drama, organizations will begin to question whether the Sussex attention is worth the cost. The sad thing is that it did not have to be this way. Harry had enormous affection. Meghan had curiosity, glamour, and goodwill at the start. Together they had a chance to build something quieter and more durable. But they chose confrontation, confession, and constant narrative control. That strategy brought fame and money for a time, but it also made every old story fair game and every contradiction visible. Now the public sees William and Catherine at Wimbledon and understands the direction of travel. One couple is moving toward kingship, continuity, and public confidence.
Far the worst thing that Harry has ever done.
100%.
I could not believe what fell out of his mouth.
No, 100%. It was revolting, but it was almost more astonishing, Tash, that no one really cared. And in some ways, I care because I don't think a member of the royal family in any way should act like that, because I think it degrades all of the royal family. But it is really interesting. A couple of years ago, Harry appearing on a podcast like that, acting like that, it would be front page news. It does sort of show you how he is diminishing as a figure, partly because of age, but partly because of his behavior.
The other is still trying to explain itself through lawsuits, podcasts, old grievances, and carefully managed appearances. That contrast is devastating because it is not theoretical, it is visual. It is emotional, it is obvious. Harry may still want to believe he can laugh it off, describe himself as a duke, call himself a prince, and carry on as though the old magic remains. But comedy is often the first place where lost status shows. When the joke lands, it means the audience already understands the weakness being exposed. At Wimbledon, Ali G did not create Harry's problem. He simply named it in a way people could laugh at, and that is where Harry stands now. Not destroyed, not irrelevant, but diminished. Still famous, but less admired. Still royal, but less trusted. Still emotional, but less persuasive. Still connected to causes, but increasingly overshadowed by the chaos he brings with him. If he wants to change that, the work will not begin with another interview, another court case, another title, or another complaint about the press. It will begin with Harry finally accepting that the world has heard his pain, understood much of it, and is now waiting to see whether he can become something more than the wounded prince who never stops looking back.